As I'd like to illustrate the use of the roughing gouge as we start to turn, and I want you to watch for my body motion when I get this roughing gouge, this piece put onto the lathe. But this is actually a 40-40 gouge, and as you can see, the red line here is the shadow of the block that I'm starting to turn, and the black line here is the 4-inch diameter point here that I'm actually turning to. If I'm turning and I just move my gouge straight in up to the, as I'm turning, you can see that now the tip of the gouge is well away, and I'm going to stop cutting that. So I actually, in order to actually continue to turn without moving my tool rest, I have to start moving down and down. So the tool starts to lift up. Now, the problem I run into is that the angle is such that I have to get up. So regardless of how close you are, you must change your tool rest when you, as you're going through your roughing stage in order to get a good roughing cut. And that's what I want you to watch for when I'm doing this on the side. It's convenient to have one setting, so I'm just making the tool rest about the same height so that when I bring it in, it'll still continue to be at about the same cut angle. There we go. I've got it down to the tenon. So let's take it out of the truck and put it onto a my jaw chucks. I changed that around because it wasn't sitting quite on the shoulder of my chuck the way I wanted it to, so I really would rather it sat down nicely. I hate the sound of that. I'm changing back to the smaller bit because as long as I can get down the hole, I don't have to worry about it. So that's supposed to be a little bit around 5 3/4 of an inch. So
Over here, right, for a second.
I thought I was sitting there thinking that use the same depth, and then realized I better double check the length of my bit to make sure it is in fact the same length. And lo and behold, they are two different lengths. If I didn't have those big Forstner bits, I'd take the biggest bit I have and drill down as deep as I can to make that center line. And then start with the same bits I'm going to use next for hollowing out with. And literally it would be scraping out the side from the inside in. Obviously, you don't want to go all the way down to the base with the big Forstner bit because that allows you to turn down the tool with the inside. So I do want to be able to make it narrow. Okay, so the problem I'm facing at the moment with this vessel is that it's a single wall stainless steel vessel. So if you get the gap too close, there's no insulation at all at the top. And I discovered this on the first one I did where it was really quite tight. It gets extremely hot very quickly. So the more of a gap you can have down here between the wood and the center, the better. Okay, you'll notice at the bottom here, that they've actually made a little knob on it to sit up. So it actually sits away from the base. So, you know, that actually helps insulation on that front. The only reason I made it narrower down at the bottom is because I want to be able to put a little bit of a taper shape on it. Now, my tool here is almost the right diameter, exactly the right diameter. This sidewall goes down to about 2 inches. It's actually 1.5 inches down where it starts to taper. So I'm going to make that about 1 3/4 inches deep on this cut with this bit. The advantage of having the Forstner bit in this case is there's a lot of chatter when you're out at this end of the tool. And so it really makes it a lot easier to run that down. It looks like there's a lot of wall change to think when you look at this thing, but it's only about 1/4 inch. So it's really not that much wall to take out when you get it down that deep. So I bought myself this tool for Christmas. It's a scraper, and it's a lot, the reason I bought it is because it's a lot thicker than most of my scrapers are. So with the blunt nose scraper, it's more stable down further into the hole. And then I sharpened it, started sharpening it so that this is more swept back. So in fact, so that the corner here is cut back. So I'm actually can use that corner for cutting. And now we're going to see how well it works because I've never used it before. So I think this is probably the best one because you can see that it's going to, the platform length. I get nervous with this stuff. And so sometimes you just have to stand back and take a deep breath, just to calm your nerves, realize you're nervous. The likelihood of this blowing off now is almost zero because the way that that is set into the tool, the rest is set in there. Where can it go? I mean, if you have a catch, the worst that can happen is may come off a few degrees. But a catch is never a nice thing to have, and a piece coming loose is never a nice thing to have. So it's always a sort of a tension. And if you ever lose that tension, stop turning. Because to me, that's your safety thing going off. it's almost impossible to stop the chatter at this at the outside here when you're, you know, scraping or anything like that. So that size is big enough now, though. So,
Okay.
so what I'm going to do next is the next thing we learned last time, which is to take in the magic marker here and scribble down the outside here. Put that in, give it a twist. What I was just trying to do right now was just see where the blockage is. And I was thinking it's right at the bottom, but it's not. It's halfway up because it's only going, the blockage is there. So I was just trying to visualize here the line where it is so that when I put my tool back in, I can actually see at what point in time I need to start changing dimensions, because I'm going to go in that far, which is about the second S here. So that's where I'm actually blocking the blockage that started. So that's where my taper is too much, or not enough, sorry. So now I got to glue that back together and put something else on there. I'm just putting glue on here. And that's for, at this point in time, I took a rest before, and this is exactly my concern. But thank goodness I've got everybody here, including John, to help me keep calm down again.
Yeah, I think maybe the other scraper with the, you know,
The smaller one?
No, the other one. The other one brought it up like this.
The square-ended one, yeah.
You want an activator?
Yeah, I guess. It's going to leave a bit of a mark, but I guess it'll.
When you activate?
Yeah. So we had a catch. And I want to start off by saying that before that catch happened, I was feeling nervous and somewhat tense. My gut feeling was saying there was something wrong, and I didn't pay attention to it. So this catch is all my fault. It's not got nothing to do with the tools. I mean, the tools is everything, but it's all on me as to how that whole thing is set up. Well, so what I want to do is just show how this happened. You can see that this is the edge of the rest. Because the tool is quite wide, I had the edge over here. But if you take a look, the actual, when the cutting edge is in contact with the outside, the actual tool is over the center line. So the majority of the tool. So when that caught, it came up and did that on me. And the reason is that that is the wrong tool for the job when you really think about it. When you're cutting on here, you're trying to cut on this angle, and it actually is very prone to that. So I went back to my shop and got what I think is a better tool for doing this job. There's several scrapers that are better, but the one I chose is not one that everybody will necessarily have, but it's one that I use for hollow forms. Obviously, with hollow forms, you got to scrape a lot. So this actually does a lot of cutting, and it does it very well. But the important part of this tool is that when you'll notice when it rotates, the tool tip stays in the same position. So even if I have a catch, it doesn't rotate the whole tool, it just rotates it slightly. So that's number one. The second part of that is that now instead of cutting on the side of the tool, I'm actually using the tip of the tool to cut. And that's, to me, very critical for doing the inside. So that really means, and it happens with hollow forming, that I can get in there very lightly and make a very gentle cut. And also the risk, and if it does catch a little bit, it'll twist a little bit, but it won't catch the way that the other tool caught. Also on this tool, you can see that I actually have 2 screws here for screwing the handle in, so that I try and make that so that actually tells me when I'm horizontal on the tool itself. Move this out of the way. I'm going to rotate the piece ever so slightly on this because what happens is that the jaws make a mark and it'll just return to its original position if I'm not careful. So what I want to do is do that. I'll put this down. I'll bring that in as tightly as I can. That's a whole lot better. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in, it's still a little bit out around. I'm just using a skew on it. That gets the thing centered up now, so at least it won't take the vibration when I take the end off of it. Now let's see what happens when I do this. That's much better. And next I'm going to go in with the end with that hollow forming tool.
Okay.
And just finish the inside. Makes a lot less noise too. The next thing I've got is I made a template for this end piece. See how well we're fitting here? This is a 3-inch. My cup will fit inside that, but I was trying to make it a little bit wider just to make space, because if you don't make it wide enough, then it really it doesn't help with the insulation value. So I just wanted to make it enough. This is designed for deeper hollow forms. Well, not even deep hollow forms. This is designed so you can get around the neck inside a hollow form. But because of the angle of the tool, even though you go in deeper, it cuts the side cut, which is a really nice thing to have. You can hear the difference of the sharpness on that. and make a look at my thing and see how to get an estimate how deep that goes down to that first section. Even though I know I've previously cut the depth of the hole, I want to still do this just to give me an indication where I am, because I don't want to be down there touching, seeking. If I can do this, and when I'm down to the bottom, I can actually do it without actually having to feel it. It gives me an idea when I'm close, and trust me, that's what, for me, that's the critical part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing out, and see how deep this goes in. I'm just putting a little bit of scraping to see where I'm actually touching on that again. And you can see I'm touching at the bottom there, so I need to widen it out just a little bit at the bottom. Sorry, as you can see that here. Now, the next question I've got is how far in this goes. So I'm just going to estimate there, because I think what's happening is I'm trying to rub at the bottom as opposed to turn away at the further up. So if I take my tool here, say that's where the blockage is. So well, there's a lot of feel involved in this stuff, you know. I suppose I could be more aggressive about it. Okay. I'm still convinced that some of this stuff helps your overall turning, because you can't see it. You have to do it by feel and by sound.
Yeah.
And so it really makes you much more aware of touch. You can see that it appears that the mark is moving up the container. Well, that just means to me that the mark, that the high spot is still in the same spot. The mark is about there. I take my tool, what I'm trying to get is the angle of the tool that I need off center line. That's got it, John. All I wanted to do is show the end here, right at the outside end. Wall thickness is about 1/8 of an inch. And down in the inside bottom, the wall thickness is about 3/8 of an inch, which means I can put a little bit of a taper on there and finish it off. I just wanted to double check to see the wall thickness for the bottom there. And now when I put the cup in also, and there's a tiny bit of slop there, which is fine. What I wanted to do, I wanted to have a gap on the top. And what I want to do is when I turn this outside down, I want to put a taper on the outside so that it brings the thin edge to go up inside here. So I'd like it to go in a little bit further. So I have 3 unknowns. This may be off, but also it may be jamming down at the bottom here or someplace along the side still. So it's fine. And I know the top fit is okay because everything's there. So the only possibility is that it's either jamming up here or jamming at the bottom. Bottom dimple is resting on the bottom. It should be 6 3/4 or 5 3/4. And I've got it down. Yeah. Another Ellsworth hollowing tool, which is down at the very bottom.
Yeah.
I think that's got it. It's enough of a force fit on that if I use the cone to push that in, it ain't coming off again. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter how far up into the lip that goes. My biggest concern was the fact that it's, it'll be touching on. Well, even if it's not touching on the bottom and if it's holding on the sides, it'll still have an airspace in there.
Yeah.
It'll be fine for coffee. from above, but actually what I'm looking at is the far side here. It's just a concept. That way. And if I bring that out to the end here, it'll fit over and just push on there so that I can put that on there without using the point of my tail stalk and flat against the bottom. And now I'm ready to drink coffee. Even though this is not finished, I can still drink coffee out of it because the stainless steel still works. So you can cut this off and leave it like this for the rest of the eternity and still use it as a coffee mug.